How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Parents versus Gaming. This is episode 9. It is May 13th. I'm about to go on vacation. I just got my vaccine first shot yesterday. So here we go. Thank you so much. Let's go around the room and introduce everybody all the way on the end. We've got Jay Noller, Mr. US Bobsled Team himself, US Bobber. Jay, how's it going?
Hey, man, doing great. We won last week. I know everyone was very concerned about my team's performance on Saturday. So we are 1-0 in the season, 14-0 from last year. And so we've got a game tomorrow. So feeling great.
That's the Idaho Horsemen, right? Now, is this arena football?
It is. Indoor arena football.
Indoor arena football. Nice. So is that 50 yards?
Yeah. It's fun. It's a blast. It's a shootout. The game last week was 46-44.
Now, you guys are carrying an undefeated streak, I believe, right?
Yep, 14 games dating back to last year.
Nice. That's awesome. Awesome. Now let's go right to the middle. The beautiful Miss Alexis Jordan. Jordan, how are you?
I'm good. You're too nice. You're too nice to me.
Well, I mean, I could be talking about Jay. You don't know.
That's very true. Very true. Beautiful, luscious hair.
How's your week?
It's been good. I put in my 2 weeks on Monday. So my last day will officially be the 24th. I bought a little calendar I'm going to put up over here, and I have a lot of content planned, but in the meantime, I've taken like a little bit of a break. So if you watch me on my stream and I haven't been there, I'm so sorry, but I will be back very soon and a lot more often than you probably even want me there. So
yeah, don't forget, we're about to launch a ton of content on our official company site, website, all kinds of stuff coming soon. That is Last Choice Network. So if you want to try to find us and follow us, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, our website's coming soon. You're more than welcome to join us. So hopefully a lot of things coming. But let's jump into the episode. So the first thing we want to talk about is our favorite game series that kind of molded who you are and kind of shaped the person that you are, whether it be just the person you are or the gamer that you are. We will start with Jay because I have a feeling it's going to go back a little bit further than Jordan's.
So we're talking about the game that molded, that started me off as a young whippersnapper with my Nintendo and my Super Nintendo, that really molded me into the overly angry, aggressive gamer that I am now.
Yes.
It's got to be a tie between GoldenEye and Madden. And the reason why is because sorry, Jordan, I'll have to school you here a little bit. You used to not be able to talk trash to everyone as you're playing. So you had to have your boys come over. And so everyone's in the room, everyone's on the couch, huddled around a little TV, and you are absolutely trash talking each other. And sometimes the violence in the game could also potentially translate to the violence in the room. And so there was no little, 12-year-old, your mom this and I did this to your blah, 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 and everything else, because you could have had to say that to your buddy who would just turn around and bust you in the mouth for talking about his mama like that. So GoldenEye and Madden were definitely two of them that molded me and my trash talking as well.
Now, do you feel like it changed the way you played video games, though? I mean, what kind of things were you into before you found those?
Man, I've really played everything. I was fortunate enough to really have a lot of exposure to a lot of games growing up. Everything from the side scrollers with like Contra to, I remember how groundbreaking Sonic was, Sonic the Hedgehog with the rings and loops, and there wasn't really the side scroller anymore and everything else. So, I think growing up, I kind of lived through the golden age of the transformation of games and the constant expansion of the world and stuff. And so, I know we're going to get into it a little bit here pretty shortly as far as like games and creativity and stuff. But man, I really think I was fortunate enough to really kind of grow up kind of with those guys that were setting the blazing the trail for what's going on now.
Nice. And Jordan, what about you? I know this took place, 12 years ago? But
shut up. It's so hard because I like the games that I mostly played when I was younger was probably like Pokemon, Legend of Zelda, maybe like Super Smash Bros. Or Mortal Kombat with my brothers. But the first game that I fell in love with besides Pokemon was BioShock. That series has an amazing story. I think it was one of the most like groundbreaking in storytelling, in my personal opinion, at that time. I love horror, everything, and it was the first time that I ever played like a shooter and felt good. So I don't know. I feel like all the games that I played made me kind of introverted because it was all, Pokemon and stuff, like you're just there with yourself. So that was the first one that ever, I don't know, like I was sitting next to my friends playing it and it wasn't such like a lonely experience. Like they showed me it. So yeah, it was nice. I just love the storytelling. It got me into like cosplay. It really like for my teenage years really helped me kind of expand into different hobbies and stuff as well. Because there's so much backstory in it.
So you
James,
talked about hobbies.
Hang on, before we go too much further,
sure.
I'm learning. Every time I know we're on episode 9, and we're still learning and we're still figuring each other out and everything. Jordan, you do cosplay? Like, what did you ever do? Like game characters, or were you more like comic characters, or
like
where
anime?
did you go with that?
Like anime, I cosplayed as a little sister from BioShock, and one of my friends, I have to find her picture. They're a set of twins that their cosplays are like out of this world. Like they literally built like the Big Daddy and walked around in the Big Daddy suit. Like it's amazing. I asked her,
Wow.
I wanted to cosplay as Lifeline, one of hers. So I actually asked one of them for their advice on how to do it. So that's what I'm currently trying to do. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, no, I used to go to cons like all the time in high school, and then like the little raves afterwards, and yeah, I was a little dweeb. But yeah, no, I loved it. I got like body paint, and I did that a couple times. I tried my best. I went as like Sally and the Corpse Bride with like the wedding dress and like she's all blue and stuff. Yeah, that was probably like my favorite cosplay because it was like a lot of body paint and the dress was a lot of fun to make. So, yeah.
That's way cool.
So it definitely kind of changed your direction and kind of what you thought, for sure. It really kind of opened your eyes to like seems like a whole new side of things that you did outside of gaming.
Yeah, because conventions, like everyone's so nice. Like you couldn't go up to a stranger and just be like, "Oh, can I sit next to you and eat?" Like at like conventions, people are just like so sweet, and you're like forced to have interaction because you see someone, you want to take a picture with them, you talk to them. And before that, like I said, like I've always been very like introverted and like you guys know, I'm sure you guys know, I get nervous very easily. It's hard for me to talk to people. I always think people don't like me, so I never really wanted to talk to people when I was younger. So yeah, like one little game and something that's kind of unrelated because it's like a scary story, but it just sparked so much like joy in me that I branched out into all these other things. So yeah, it had like a huge influence on me.
Nice.
That's really cool. Yeah, my old company, we used to do licensing and stuff, and we did with like Capcom, and we did Saban when they had Power Rangers and stuff. So I actually took my team to a lot of different cons and PAX, like PAX Southwest and everything.
Cool.
So I just never had the cojones to do it. So props to you for doing it. I was always the stooge in the side that was like polos and slacks because I was representing a company and walking around for meetings. So I was always blown away by like the costumes and stuff and how much effort was in there. And then, even the ones that I didn't understand, like the wings were coming out and it was like a dragon head with a giant sword. And I go, I don't even know what that is, but it's awesome.
Yeah.
So no, you bigger baller than I am because I'd never had the cojones to actually put myself out there like that.
You should.
That's pretty awesome. For me, the game. So my gaming history is a little bit, crazy. I had basically a Nintendo all the way through high school, just a regular Nintendo. Of course, I played a little bit of GoldenEye. I played some things here or there, but unfortunately, not necessarily unfortunately, I worked at a resort for a long time, so I didn't have internet and I didn't have all these access to games. But the game that really changed everything for me, which is funny because I started replaying it today, is actually Mass Effect.
Oh.
And the Legendary Edition just released today, so the trilogy is back out. It's completely remastered. I'm probably already 15 hours into the first game.
Oh my God.
I got it late last night because I manipulated my Xbox and said that it was in New Zealand, so I got it, way ahead of schedule. But the creativity I found from that, it was this story. And Jay, I don't think you've ever played it, but it's just like a lot of the story games today. And basically the game exists because BioWare had a Star Wars license. They weren't allowed to make Star Wars games anymore, so they basically gave LucasArts the middle finger and made their own space opera. But they really made this where you could cater this character and this story to yourself. And I wasn't huge into the entire trilogy, but the first two games changed everything. I just thought there was so much creativity and possibilities, and it opened my mind to just storytelling and being creative, whether it was coaching soccer or being an entertainment manager for a resort or working with kids. I just was able to tap into this creative side of me that I never really was willing to kind of put myself out there. And being able to play through it again right now, it's really funny because it's like the memories and the muscle memories coming back to me on how I did things and why I did them. And then you start thinking about what was going on in your life at the time that you were playing it. I'm sure Jordan would be the same if you played, BioShock. Things that were going on in your life are just going to come back up. So, and to be able to play it again right now, I'm actually jealous because the game obviously didn't run that well back in the day, but this remastered version, other than the graphics obviously look they are remastered, but it still has that PS3, PS4, early Xbox 360 feel to it. But it's definitely, like I said, it definitely changed everything about the way that I looked into it. And it was one of the first, what I would say is adult games. A lot of video games was all about fun and very cartoony, whether it be Mario Brothers and everything was kind of safe. Now, of course, your online shooters and all that were very toxic in the lobbies. I'm not saying that they weren't, but nothing felt like this was like your own story and it was adult, and it just kind of blew my mind. And it started me down this path of realizing that video games were more than just, this entertainment medium, that thousands of people worked on a video game and that voice acting was a thing, and that a director and producer and a costume designer and developers and all these, it was just like a movie, and writers, it was exactly like a movie, except, obviously a lot longer and really drawn out. And it took obviously I had played Halo and the story was amazing there, but this was like, basically you're an adventure book. Choose your own adventure book, and it changed the way I looked at games, and obviously they changed a lot of the game industry themselves as a whole. And then from there, it just kind of kept going, and I've never really found anything that gave me that same feeling. The other thing that I will say that really changed the way about playing games, obviously I play a lot of Warzone. I know, Jordan, you give me a hard time about it. I'm not saying that I'm the best, but the first Battle Royale game I ever played was PvG. And I had watched it on PC quite a bit, and you hear people talking about it, and they were like, it just gave you this feeling. Now, I watched a lot of pros like Shroud and Dr. Disrespect and some of these guys. They won a lot. So it just seemed like they were so much better than everyone, which they were, but they won a lot. But you would hear these other people, why did they play PvG so much? What made this Battle Royale genre so great? And it was that it made you feel something in the game that this adrenaline rush, this feeling of, Jay, you're an athlete, getting ready to go down your bobsled run, or it's the fourth quarter, it's the end of the game, and what you're coaching right now, and you have that adrenaline rush. The quarterback wants the ball right there. And for a lot of, average people that just play video games, or just average people in general, they're never going to, be in the World Series, be in the Stanley Cup Finals, be in a Super Bowl, be in a football game at all professional. They're never going to feel that. But PvG had this way of, if you got down to the final 2 or 3, and even Warzone doesn't give me this, but PvG, you would be holding your controller on your keyboard and mouse, and people would just be breaking out into a sweat. Your hands were shaking, your heart was pumping, and it was just absolutely insane. And to have that feeling from a video game, I thought was just one of the coolest experiences ever. I remember the very first time I won, I think I only killed 2 people. I'm pretty sure I hid in a bush half the time, and I'm pretty sure I won the game by chucking a grenade over a hill and accidentally killing someone. But I just was like, it was like I had just like scored a goal in the World Cup. Like I was running around and
You were that guy.
yeah, yeah, but it was great. But you had seen this, you'd seen this on Twitch or, at the time Mixer, and you'd seen these people just get so hyped, and you just you can't explain it until you experience it yourself. And I think that was just something that really changed the way I like to play, and then also being able to play a game where, a lot of times my friends play Warframe, or we play Destiny, or they're playing Outriders right now. And these types of games, your friends build their characters up so far, they're so far into the game that you feel like it's never ending, you're never going to catch up to them. They just kill everything, everybody, every level you're doing, and it is fun. I'm not saying that I don't play them, I do play them, and it is fun. But the thing about Battle Royales is every game you start with nothing. So if you take a break, you might not be as good as everyone, but you can jump right in with your friends at any moment. I think that's a genre I just don't see leaving anytime soon. Obviously, it changed the multiplayer space probably forever, to the point where I think some of the most important games, even if it's not the greatest add-on, I think it's just going to become a mode. It's not something that they necessarily need to be the greatest at, but if you have a multiplayer thing, I think that Battle Royale, even if it's only 40 people, some version of it is probably just going to be a game mode in almost any game going forward, at least any successful AAA game. So that's kind of where I stand. Jay, going back to yours, I know you did a lot of, you said Madden and GoldenEye. Did doing the Madden, did that give you the itch to want to be a football coach? Would you say that attributed at all? Or did you just fall into it?
No, but what's funny is, so I coach freshman DBs and receivers and stuff for the school that I'm at in the secondary. So what's funny is, for those kids that really don't have any football knowledge, I will tell them, look, you need to go get Madden, and it's not going to teach you the technique to apply, but it does teach you the concepts. And so there have been kids that I've told specifically, like, look, seriously, go get a copy of Madden, whatever year we're in, and go play it. And in a couple of weeks, let's talk again, and let's start talking these concepts, because the terminology is pretty close to the same. The strategic concepts are pretty close to the same. Obviously, you can always there's a lot of things that are very unrealistic that you can do with the game, like run everyone one side and then come back and then throw a 60-yard bomb on the run to the opposite direction and catch it. But as far as the play calling and kind of the concepts and seeing where your areas of responsibility are, I have actually used that as a kind of a prescription for, look, you don't know what you're doing, like, go play some video games in your downtime and come back a little bit stronger. And it's the same thing with like NBA. I played a lot of NBA 2K as well, and there's a lot of different things that you are forced to learn in that game that are not absolutely directly applicable, but do kind of teach concepts a little bit.
It's funny you bring up NBA. LeBron James constantly talks about how he gets, he wants to get used to a new player coming to the team, and he plays with them on NBA, and he talks about how just running the technical plays is pretty accurate on whether or not you like those games or you like their business practices. As we lose Jay again, they definitely have a lot to say, and they definitely help out a lot of stuff. Play as the Giants. Yeah. Before we go on, I do want to jump in to the chat, because they did bring up a lot of games when we were talking about games that shaped us. Let's see. I want to go through here. I saw Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts. A lot of people crapping all over Madden. Someone on Facebook said Mega Man was a game that changed them, and Mega Man was a bomb game for sure.
Which one? They were all good.
God.
Somebody said on Facebook, kids today don't even know the glory of Mega Man 2.
Well, and I think I don't know, James, did we talk about this? I don't know if it was on a podcast or just a conversation, but kids today will not know the pain of only having 3 lives, and you got to crush an entire game from A to Z with
Right?
only three, with like a couple of
Yeah.
power ups, and once you're done, there's no save point, buddy. You're going back to 1-1.
You know,
Well,
you know what they...
Returnal is out.
Yeah, Returnal.
Was that?
Returnal,
Oh, yeah.
Jay, a good game for PlayStation players right now, roguelike game. Someone in the chat said, I mean, all of this is great, but let's talk about the best game ever made, E.T. for Atari. It's funny because we were actually talking about E.T. before we started, and we just learned that Jordan has never seen the movie E.T. I mean, granted, it came out, 20 years before she was alive, I guess, but... That's still
I think so.
It's a shocker that you haven't, somewhere along the line, your family or somebody didn't force you to get it.
Look, I was traumatized. Okay. It came out in 1982.
I mean, I was only a year old, but I still saw it. I mean, somebody's gotta pick up the pace. Jay, you probably saw it in the theater, didn't you? How old are you? 50?
Oh God. Okay. First of all, no, I was 2. So you can wait. And I check this every time. This is still an adult broadcast, right?
Yes.
You can
yes.
kiss all of the ass back here, all of it, because I'm only like a year older than you are.
That's true. But with that being said, the next topic we want to talk about, that perfect segue, because to play E.T., my God, did you need some creativity to relate that to the movie, because it was not good or anything about the movie. I still don't even understand what the game was even about today. So one thing that we'd like to talk about, games in the 80s and 90s versus games today. Which kind of era do you feel like had allowed for more creativity in regards to kids? You talk about the parents today. We're always relating to the parents that don't really know a lot about gaming, right? But this time we might be relating to the parents that do know a lot about gaming. Their kids are playing today, and you constantly hear, "You don't know anything about video games. You should have played E.T., or you should have had to play Mario Brothers 1 or Lion King, Aladdin," all these games. Back then, like you said, Jay, they were so much harder. You didn't have, I will say today, there's not a lot of iconic levels in today's games. You don't play Call of Duty and say, "Oh, that first level is phenomenal." But you look back, Sonic the Hedgehog, Mario Brothers, the music starts, you see the level, and anyone that's older immediately knows that's the beginning of the game. And that's because we had to play it 3 million times, because every time you wanted to play the game, you had to start at the beginning. You didn't get to pick up halfway through. So, Jay, we'll kick it over to you. Do you feel like there's, the difference between the eras?
Well, absolutely. I mean, and I think if you're talking sweet spot of gaming with relation to right now, I really think that the early 2000s to maybe like 2010 or so, and this is going to be a very long explanation on why I came to this answer. They were iconic games. Your Marios, hell, even Duck Hunt. Just iconic games and everything. But let's be realistic. They were side scrollers, and they had great games or great concepts, and they pushed the boundaries of the technology. But the technology was very limiting to what could be accomplished. So at the end of the day, yes, there are iconic. The sounds, I mean, everyone, if I mention, Mario going into a green pipe, everyone's got that sound. Like, that just kind of pops into their head. But, early 2000 games, man, I mean, I think that's really kind of been where the sweet spot is. And I think that now, because games are so cinematic in creation, you've got this huge, massive budget to be able to produce these games, and then there's the indie producers that may or may not be able to even turn a profit on them developing a game for 3 or 4 years in their basement. Whereas early 2000s, there weren't necessarily that tagged in AAA release. It was just the next game that was coming out. And so, there weren't these astronomical budgets and there weren't these astronomical expectations on return on the game and the life of it and everything like that. They could just produce the games that push the envelope of the technology of the systems, the consoles, and the computers that they had. And that's kind of like the sweet spot was it hadn't gotten to the point where everyone was expecting these huge, massive blockbusters every time someone releases something. Like, if Blizzard was to release a game and it not make top 10 downloads of all time in 30 days, everyone goes, ugh, it's a flop. Whereas, back in the, early 2000s and stuff, if the game, had some legs and it kept going and stuff, it could still be considered a success because of the life on the shelf. Whereas now it's incredible turn and burn. And you're talking about movie blockbuster budgets into a game to kind of do it all. So I think we've kind of gone the way of a little too far forward where, people don't want to produce something unless it's already been shown.
So you're saying that the creativity in relation to the kids it allows kids to be more creative today playing video games versus
absolutely
the 80s and 90s? All right.
Absolutely. Just because a game's hard doesn't mean it's creative. So just because you got your face kicked in on Contra without knowing up, down, left, right, to be able to get the lives to be able to go through it, it was much more imagination. Now, I mean, these are, as you just mentioned, these are cinematic experiences where it's really choose your own story and everything else, where, 80s and 90s, it was start at the left side of the screen, end at the right side of the screen, and it's either a cloud level, a ground level, or a swim level. And that was really kind of what you were limited. And you think back to your memories of Sonic, that was because they broke the mold of the side scroller. And so, as each generation comes out, you're able to get more and more creative. And I think it's because of the hardware and the computer, the computer languages that you're able to put in there, and, Real Engine, is able to code out. And I mean, there's a lot that kind of goes into it. Now you've got these massive MMOs. I mean, you don't even have to do anything. You can go on side quests the entire game, still play the game, still drop 80, 190, however many hours, and never complete the actual main quest and still have a great game experience.
But the question with that is that more creativity for the producers, of course, but for the kids? Like, at first, when James brought up this topic, I thought, of course, older games would, because it would spark a kid's imagination. They're not being told everything. But I also didn't think about games like Minecraft, Sims, Roblox, like the creativity in that. And then also with these story-based games, sometimes you have to figure out something logically. So it might not necessarily be creative, but it's also helping them learn those basic skills of, reading into things and looking a little bit deeper and stuff like that. So at first, my answer was probably the older games created more or inspired more creativity. But now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to say.
I mean, Crash, I want to jump to the chat. I want to jump to the chat real quick and give some feedback, because Crash says, I think games back in the day allowed for more creativity because those were the only outlets kids kind of had. So they would take those ideas out into the world, whereas now there is too much sensory options. So I just want you to kind of, as we go along on this topic, have that in mind.
So, Jordan, and I'm going to your point, James, because it's an older game. James, do you remember the game that really kind of blew everybody's mind as far as like being creative and having to build your own story? Did you remember the first iteration of Myst?
Myst,
where you had to go through and problem solve the whole thing.
Correct. I would say, though, the one drawback to Myst in maybe this argument is that Myst was definitely geared towards an older crowd.
Yeah.
It was it was PC only, so it was marketed out. The average kid didn't have a PC they could play a game on.
Well, there still wasn't, and it was still kind of goes back to the technology. Like, computers weren't exactly household items when that game came out, but the concept behind it was kind of an open world, go around, solve problems, and you can make a good argument that that was the first like MMO. It was just problem solving, not quest and you know treasure chests and XP and everything like that. It was more just linear problem solving.
I mean,
a good point. Like he says, who didn't pretend to be Mario, Link, Ninja Turtles. But I think we're talking about differences in creativity. That's why at first I said the older games, right? But then when I got to thinking about it, you see these kids build like crazy stuff in Minecraft.
Minecraft alone, I would say Minecraft alone, and now even Roblox, probably hands down,
and Sims
win it. Even Sims a little bit, they win it for the generation. I can see Crash's point. Crash is saying creativity when it relates to outside of the video game world. I would definitely say maybe the older games had that but maybe that's to Jay's point. They had to take that creativity and expand on it outside of the game because they couldn't be creative in the game. Where a game like Minecraft, Roblox, Sims, you've got city builders, coaster builders, zoo builders, all kinds of different simulation games now where they can literally decide what they want to do. No Man's Sky is a great example as well. I know it bombed when it came out, but at the end of the day, if you just want to go around and explore planets, or you want to sit on one planet in No Man's Sky and build these massive, that's what you do in that game. And you could put 300 to 400 to 500 hours and not follow the story because you've decided that's the world you want to live in and that's the world you want to be creative. So I do think that games today allow you to be more creative in them versus out of them.
But also for outside of them, think about artists. I mean, think about like kids who end up exploring more art because of things that they found in Minecraft, whether they're drawing that, whether they're creating cosplay. A lot of video games and stuff spark cosplay. But beyond that, like game design. I know like a 14-year-old who mods stuff for The Sims. Like, I don't even know how to do that. Like, that is a kid getting inspired by a game and looking into like game code and like creating amazing stuff for The Sims because they're too lazy. EA's too lazy to do it for their own. For their own players, but
well, and I think that if you want to, the only argument you could make for the games in the 80s, 90s, early, whatever, they did have a lot more randomized titles and a lot more randomized stories, and the reason why, because the threshold of entry was so much lower, and I think that kind of goes back to my point of, games today, you have to have hundreds of developers. We talk about it all the time because, obviously we play a lot of Call of Duty. Oh my God, these guys are terrible. They let this one little room in here have this one little glitch out of everything else. Jeez, the game is broken. I can't believe that they would push this out. And I go, guys, like, let's put it in concept, or let's keep this in perspective of how much of this is playable. And you've got one little glitch where you could drive an ATV into a building and oh my God, the whole game's broken. Because you have to have so many developers and the support and everything like that. Whereas before, you could have a small team turn a game around very quickly because you're talking about 360 megs of data. That was it. Like, you couldn't get much more than that. So the threshold of entry was lower, so you could churn a lot more games out with all these randomized titles to be able to get out. But other than that, man, I think that the games now, Sims is a great one. I mean, even
look at the stuff Switch does. Look at Labo for Switch.
Microsoft Simulator. You can fly a plane anywhere. You could fly a plane to the cargo ship that was stuck in the canal and go check it out because they were able to get it and update it and like look at it and everything so much faster now, which I thought was the funniest thing ever. being able to go check out the cargo ship at the container.
Yeah, Crash, I want to go back to Crash. He says one more thing. He says, I mean, you can say creativity in early gaming and gaming today are two sides of the same coin. They both are sparking a lot of creativity. They're being expressed in the options available.
Yeah, and those games, really, you have to pay homage to them because those are the ones that got us Battlefront. Those are the ones that got us, Madden, where you play virtually. I mean, literally, you could trace the lineage of Madden back to Tecmo Bowl, back to the. I know there's a lot of NFL quarterbacks now that are using VR headsets to be able to pre-snap read defenses now, and that all you can make an argument that all came from Tecmo Bowl very easily because of the technology and the real world application. And you already mentioned it. I know there's a lot of NBA players that actually do play NBA 2K for Scout, just so because the games have gotten so realistic now. That's
true. That's very true. The chat has definitely been going off. I know someone was talking about how games on their Commodore 64. I don't know. Jay,
Yes.
Jay, you probably had a Commodore 64.
I did.
On their what?
Jordan.
Calm down. Jordan, I'm going to pretend like you're not here. Let the old men talk in the room about the Commodore 64 and the discs and then the DOS loading screen and then all of the really random games and stuff that you could play and your disc may or may not work. It was... Okay, so Jordan, back in the day, there used to be full-size floppy disks that were like huge.
Wait, no,
I know you've seen them in museums. I appreciate
no. No.
Like, okay, no, and it's okay because my son, I was showing him how to save a document for school, and he goes, "Dad, what's that?" And he was pointing to the save icon, and I go, I had to pull
like
up an
a CD?
article on Wikipedia and go, "No, like a 3.5-inch floppy." It wasn't even like the one I grew up on.
Don't they look like CDs though? Am I tripping?
You're talking about the save icons. Some look like CDs, and some save icons look like the smaller disc.
I'm googling.
Yeah,
Wow.
It's a 3.5-inch floppy, and that's the little icon that like Word uses. A lot of times.
Yes. My Rugrats was on a floppy disk.
Yeah. So now the generation before that was James, help me out. Was it a 6-inch?
I don't. I just
6-inch?
glanced at chat and Crash says, "Imagine having to Google what a floppy disk is."
Look, I knew what it was. But I was
Oh my goodness!
trying to remember what it looked like.
I tell you what. I'm gonna.
98.
I think our first live together, where we're all in the same place podcast. I actually live by the National Video Game Museum. No joke. I've been there a couple times. I've been there with Master of Shadows, who jumps into our chat quite a bit. I actually saw Mark Cerny, who is the architect of the PlayStation, at the museum as well. But we should do a podcast from there. And then take Jordan on a tour of how video games were created.
That would be so cool.
Before then, I want to play a game, and we might have to find somebody's like niece or nephew or like somebody younger, and we're going to put a table out, and we're going to set out a bunch of old like peripheral stuff, like the old school disc, and then like all of these other random things, and we're going to see what they think it's for and what they think it was, and then we're going to go into the museum and actually figure it out. Because my son had no idea what a floppy was.
I think it would be awesome.
He didn't even know what a corded phone was. And that's brutal. Like the other day, I went like this to tell him to roll down the window, and he looks at me and goes, and I go, "Put the window down." He goes, "Dad, what's this?" And I'm like, "Shut up! I'm having a rough day, dude. Get in the truck. Let's go." Like.
That's so funny.
Wow. Also on Facebook, Jay, I do want to give a shout out. John Reserve says, I can't believe he didn't finish that code talking about your Contra code. He says the proper code was up, down, left, right, BA. Select for two players.
Start.
Yeah.
Yep, select start. Yep.
Yeah,
memory.
and John he also, I think he's making fun of Jordan here. He says these are the ghost of Christmas past, talking about all of our these Commodores and these floppy disk. But I do want to give a shout out to the chat because we're going to come back to a topic that they debated a little bit earlier as we jumped into this creativity. I think they thought we were going to go another way, and it was mainly Crash and Jason were kind of back and forth that. Their argument was games today take more skill than games of past. Now, we don't have time to jump into that, but that's going to be our topic in 2 weeks. So if you're interested in that, I would love to have you guys come back. You're going to be able to find us right back here on this channel. And I do want to give a shout out before we leave tonight. A disclaimer, next week I'm actually going to be on vacation, like I said, in Turks and Caicos.
True.
So Jordan... Alexis Jordan 98 is going to be hosting this podcast with just her and Jay on her Twitch channel next week. It'll be at the exact same time, 9 Central Time. We'll still upload it to all the podcast platforms that you can find, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, any others that you can think of, all the podcast areas around the globe. And then it will be uploaded to YouTube, the video platform as well. So very excited. Don't forget, next week it will be on Jordan's Twitch channel. And before we say goodbye, I want to go around the room and see if you guys have anything to say and where they can find you. Jay, we'll start with you. What's going on this weekend, and where can people find you if they're interested?
Buddy, I am way too busy to be found anywhere. So I am the low-profile guy on this team here, and I barely respond to Discord messages. Apparently, is what I found out. And when I do respond, apparently I don't remember that I do. So, at US Bobber, playing Call of Duty with James. That's about it. And go Horsemen. I'll be in the stadium tomorrow. So
you guys got a game tomorrow, right?
Valorant eventually, right?
Yes, I will use my gaming laptop that I have for something other than work and really get after it a little bit. So, Jordan, I think you convinced me. We'll figure out some time in the next couple weeks. I think in 3 weeks I have a bye week.
So I just want to get this clear. Jordan is convincing you to play a game that you don't want to play with anyone else. But now that Jordan wants to play with
James,
you, you're going to...
James is upset because his friends are picking on him for him playing Apex with me.
James, I learned it from watching you. Okay, so I follow your example.
It's okay. James is going to play with us too. James is going to play with us too. It's okay.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, if you want some laughs trying to use a mouse and keyboard. I tried to use that in Warzone for about 30 seconds. Then I spent the rest of the game panicking on how to turn it back.
This might make you better.
Yeah, better for the other team. And, Jordan, where can they find you?
I did put my Twitch link in the chat. I don't know if you want to copy and paste that into Facebook. Just to let you guys know, not trying to self-promo too much, but I'm almost at 700 followers on Twitch. My goal for the end of the year is 1,400. So we're almost at before half the year, so super excited about that. But like I said, I'd kind of taken a break, so I do apologize if you haven't seen me on lately. But just because I'm getting ready to pretty much be streaming like every day. So I'm super excited for what the future holds there. You can find me at Alexis Jordan 98 on Twitch. It's Alexis Jordan 988, I think, on TikTok. And then we are going to be picking Jay's brain next week. So if you have any marketing questions or Twitch questions, please come and talk to us there. That'd be great.
Don't forget, if you want to reach out to us on the show, you have any questions or topics you'd love us to discuss in the future, you can email us at parentsversusgaming@gmail.com. You can also reach out to me. I am the Gaming Dad on any kind of social media platform that you can find, whether it's TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, any other thing you can think of. Also, don't forget, our company name now is Last Choice Network. Like I said, we are going to be pumping out a bunch of content. We've got a lot of help. Big shout out on our new logo that we launched last week on the podcast from Megan Brewer, who we will hopefully welcome to our show to introduce her to people soon, as she just got recently engaged while she's on vacation. So good for her if she happens to tune in. And like I said, any subscriptions, if you follow us here, you subscribe on the YouTube channel, which is Last Choice Network, all that stuff goes to helping this podcast grow, helping the channel grow, helping our website grow and helping the three of us kind of take this to the next level. We would love any support you guys can give us, even if it's just a comment on Spotify or the Apple Podcast. Any, like or comment there would help tons. I will not be giving 20% off at AARP. I'm sorry, Crash. I know that's the old joke he wanted to throw in there. So I will go ahead and throw myself under the bus. But like I said, thanks again. This was episode 9 of Parents vs. Gaming. We're just getting started. Thank you guys so much for coming out. And I hope everyone has a great evening. And we will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.